Hi, I'm here with April Kennedy, and she is the manager of CC Lowe's. She is also an amazing artist, involved in many projects based around getting Worcester going. I was fortunate enough to sort of get recruited by her for this mural. I was in here back in the summer, and I was asking about the Montana products, and I was curious if they sold a lot, and I just started talking to the person working that day, which unfortunately wasn't April. It was Kayla. And she said that they sold really well, and then one thing led to another in the conversation, and she mentioned that CC Lowe's was doing a... Is it Lowell's or...
It's CC Lowell.
Am I mispronouncing
I didn't want to correct you.
All right, well, I have a speech impediment. Let's just leave it at that.
That's okay.
So she told me about the mural. I contacted April, and she already had Ben lined up for the project, and then we started working on it right away. She had it planned for the art on the street of Worcester, and with no further ado, I'd like to introduce her before I keep babbling on incessantly here.
Hello. I'm April Kennedy. I'm the manager at CC Lowell. Would you like me to just tell my...
Yeah, just stuff? Maybe go in, talk about your background in the arts, I'd love to hear a little bit about your work, your inspiration, how you got involved with wanting to work more in Worcester, using the arts to, develop and cultivate the community a little more.
Okay. I've done art for my whole life. I grew up with my mother as my grandmother as an artist. They were major influences to me. I don't have a degree, and sort of this job fell into my lap, and I've moved up the ranks slowly but surely. And, these projects are the most exciting part of my job. So this particular project has something to more promote CCC because we have kind of a tough location. So that's really where it began. It began with Kristen is buying or just recently purchased the store, and she wanted to expose herself as the new owner and expose the store a little more than we have had in the past. And we talked about signage. We were like, why would we waste our time and money doing a sign that just says CC Lowell Art Supplies when we could really promote ourselves with art and by contacting artists to do the actual work and to say, hey, we support the arts, we support our community, and we wanted to get it out there in that way rather than the traditional signage. So it sort of just took off from there. The two of us get going in these brainstorms, and before we knew it, it was one wall, it was a corner of a wall, and then it was the side of Haiku, and then it was, now we're working on the next building. Yeah. So we're trying to spread it as far as we can go.
Can you explain the process to me a little bit as far as how you approached the landlord? I know you worked, the subject matter was based on the fact that it was going to be on Haiku's wall. If you can just go into the sort of schematics of that. Sure. A little bit, how that started.
Well, it started with just the front of our store, which we actually flank the side of a very large block of buildings we're adjoined to. So it had initially just been the front of our store because we thought that was all we were going to be allowed to do. And when I presented the project to George, our landlord, he was so excited, so much more excited than we really anticipated. And I kind of felt an open up at that conversation, and kind of spur of the moment I said, would you be open-minded to doing something a little bigger? And he jumped on it, and he was, as soon as he saw the work of you and Ben, when I showed your portfolios, he pretty much put full trust in my hands, and that was really cool. I didn't think we were going to be able to take it as far as we were able to.
Because it happened it was so quick between, when I first came in, I had this severe head cold, and you probably thought I was a crackhead. But,
No. Well, basically, like I said, it just sort of unfolded where it was this tiny little project, and once you presented your artwork to me and I was able to check out your website, I was super inspired, and I was like, these are the guys, these are the people who are going to do this, and we can really go further and a lot bigger than I had thought. And then once he had full trust in my abilities to run this project, then we were able to do the entire side of Haiku, which is over 1,000 square feet of wall, which is a huge statement for both CC Lowell and for the art community. That's something we don't have in Worcester whatsoever.
No, it's definitely the biggest project I've worked on. I was amazed at how quickly Ben did the background, and once I saw that he sort of threw that together in literally a couple of days, I was really relieved.
I think that was sort of the joy for all of us on this project, is that everything sort of unfolded pretty naturally. We discussed the initial plan, we got approval from the landlord, and then once we all sat down, we all had a connection on our idea. You guys played off of each other really well. That was one fear. I think that's always a fear with working with artists, is are they going to communicate well? Are they going to communicate the same idea and also communicate CC Lowell's idea in unison with Haiku's restaurant? You know, Haiku is nothing to do with CC Lowell, but it is on their wall. We wanted to incorporate the dragon as the theme, and to represent that without offending anyone, and while getting you two artists to work well together was my biggest hurdle, and it was seamless. You know?
Yeah, we were really fortunate. It went, we considering how quickly it came together. I mean, I literally met with you the week before the street art festival, and then we were, doing it soon after, and Ben put down the background, which was my biggest concern. And
right.
Once I saw him get that up, I had a pretty good idea of where my work would be getting done. So I wasn't really, there was no ego coming into it. I mean, I was just excited and happy to see that he had gotten so much completed so early on, because we definitely were on a time constraint considering this starts in September, but it starts getting cold pretty quick.
Right. But that was the ease of this project, and you guys really played off of each other well. You communicated well with me. I think we all had the same level of excitement, because none of us had done anything of this magnitude before. I've never had to order 500 cans of spray paint for anything. I've never had to worry about how to cover that large of an area and make sure I have the right colors and the right quantity. It's a lot more background logistics than you're used to dealing with. I've dealt with small scale art projects of my own, but nothing on a public scale. So that was a really great learning experience for me. And I think because of how successful we were and the really overwhelming positive response we got from it, it's just inspired me to want to take this further and to do more with it.
Can you tell me more about, you said that Montana donated over 500 cans. Can you go into how you approached them, how you got in touch with them, what their reaction has been to the process and that whole experience?
Initially, we had sort of discussed, like I said, the smaller scale project with them, and they have a program that they develop with any one of their retailers who would like to get sponsorship from the company, because they do get so many requests for this sort of thing. Obviously, you have your hands on spray paint, you want to cover the largest area you can, and you want the biggest impact you can. So I think they get approached with this a lot. So they developed a program where, dependent on your sales throughout the year, they'll allow you a certain amount of money to spend. You can spend it on whatever you want, whether it be Montana markers, cans, large cans, whether you want to use it for promotional materials or use it towards a mural or a public works project like this.
Can you just, for people that aren't familiar with Montana products, can you just give us a quick background on what they are?
Yeah.
The fact that they are geared more towards street, urban, fine art.
Mm-hmm. Montana is a German company, and we're represented by our company, who is our main supplier for art supply. It's called McPherson's in California. They're actually the ones who were really the liaison between us and Montana, because Montana's in Germany. They developed this product, I want to say 20 years ago. I could be wrong on that. Possibly longer, and it's just urban arts has taken such a rush and sort of jumped up overnight.
It's really in its. I consider it to be in this sort of like golden age right now.
Absolutely, it's in the up and coming, and I think there's so much more to be done, especially since it's reached the major cities, and now it's sort of trickling into places like Worcester and smaller cities where it's really making an impact with people like us. But their overall goal is to promote street art. They call it street art or urban art, rather than tagging and rather than fine art. You know, you can use this stuff on canvas, you can use it on whatever you like, but they really formulated it to work outdoors, to work in cold conditions, to be able to, you know, set your cans in the snow, so if you're working at night, you know, undercover, it won't freeze. You know, there are all these little things that they sort of developed to make it work for the street artist, and initially for the underground street artist, and it's sort of gone mainstream. And become a part of everyday, you know, popular art, and now more city-wide projects that are sponsored by cities rather than this underground community.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we're trying to do, is get more of a approved approach rather than going underground, because we do understand the hurdles of that, but we don't want to quell it either. We don't want to destroy the beauty of having this underground sort of community and network, but we do want to do it in a way that the city will encourage it and embrace it too.
Now, didn't you have a contact at Montana that was just sort of staying?
Lisa Slauson is the rep from McPherson, and she's the one who I was in touch with. She was extremely helpful. She provided me with all these other cities, because this is fairly new to me. Urban art in general is fairly new to me. I have a friend who does it, and that's about the extent of my knowledge, other than, you know, what you see in pop culture and Banksy and stuff like that. But she basically sent me all these links for all these different projects that had developed in Chicago and all over the world, and what they had done with it, as sort of an inspiration launching pad for me. And then she basically explained how the funds program worked, and when I explained the magnitude of this project and said, listen, I don't know that this 100 cans is going to do what we want it to do, she literally bent over backwards and somehow turned around exactly the colors I wanted, exactly the quantity I needed, and turned it around within a week, and we had 500 cans of it.
Well, they know it's a really smart business model, too. They're putting in a relatively, in the scope of things, it's a small investment, but it's a huge advertisement for their product. I mean, I would love to just have some. I would be totally down with giving them some sort of credit, because I mean, they were such a huge help.
They absolutely should, and I think they do understand how these projects, and the cool thing about, in, you know, more of a business sense, the cool thing about urban art is it's a really fast-moving product. It's a really good selling product for them. It's a really good selling product for us, and we all know that, you know, the community art is ultimately what this is about, but it also is a sales tactic on both ends.
Oh, yeah.
It's definitely beneficial to both of our businesses to have a big mural like this and to promote the beauty of this particular paint.
Well, one of the things that I noticed when we were working on it is there was a lot of positive reaction from everyone overall, but the thing that I really sort of got an interesting experience out of was how many kids that it just inspired or made happy. And one of the things about Worcester is that it tends to, I think, it needs to sort of embrace the younger generations and cultures earlier.
Right.
Because if people don't care about their city, if they don't have any sort of identity to it, they're not going to want to make it a better place.
Exactly, and I think that you know, Worcester is one of those cities that struggled with tagging, and it struggled with negative graffiti and in, you know, turf wars, that sort of thing, on a very small scale, but with a very young bracket of kids. You know, there were a couple things in the paper over the last few years about tagging, and about, you know, it's really a matter of disrespect within your own community, and I think that that's what we would like to do, is sort of breach that and sort of introduce graffiti art as a positive art form rather than
that's something that you have to educate city planners and people working within that system. You have to let them know, when you go and you whitewash over graffiti, you're giving them a completely new canvas, and a lot of people will respect, like, they will respect work and they won't bomb it, they won't tag over it. So it's all about educating that sector of.
And I do think that I'm sure that a lot of city planning organizations aren't aware that there really is sort of an unspoken rule within the graffiti and urban art community that you don't tag over somebody else's artwork. You can tag over tags, you can tag over, you know, miscellaneous writing, but there is sort of an unspoken law. I'm sure that it's not written anywhere, there's no code, but there, in every person I've talked to who buys paint from us, and in reaction specifically to our mural, has said that you don't do that. It's just a respect issue.
Mm-hmm.
And I think most artists who embrace graffiti art as an art form rather than just a tag,
Yeah.
or just, kind of saying their piece somewhere, I think that they do respect that code.
Yep. Well, I definitely think that, you and I have spoken about this in depth, and we definitely want to go further than this. We don't want to stop at just doing one piece, because, I've talked to you about this a lot, in which, I think we get one more large piece under our belt, and I'd love to do something that I would like to maybe sort of push it a little more in the direction of being maybe slightly stranger but equally beautiful.
A little bit more avant-garde, I think that we, as a first of all, as sort of our advertisement for both the neighbors and ourselves, we were a little bit, maybe a little bit more careful than we would be if this were somewhere else.
Yeah.
But because we've had such a positive response to it, I think, we have to sort of ride that momentum and go with it, because we do have positive feedback from, I've had 80-year-old women come in here and tell me how beautiful that is, and that's really inspiring to hear it from the older generation, because that's, I think, our fear is we don't want to give off the wrong impression or give the wrong idea about graffiti art in general. And to hear that from an 80-year-old woman, but then also hear it from, a 10-year-old kid who just wants to learn how to do this and is so excited to learn the art of this is really cool.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a big believer in you have to create a love for the city that you're in, and if you don't, people aren't going to want to make it better. And like, one of the problems that tends to happen with any town west of 495 in Massachusetts is Worcester's the second biggest city in Massachusetts, but it's got this huge museum. It's got a giant population, but it's got this, it's also got this really high crime rate, and they just seemed like we can't
get out of our own way. And I think that, it's been a joke. Everyone knows Worcester as sort of a joke, as the city that could or should, and it hasn't. And I think there are a few of us who really strongly believe that Worcester has the potential to be something really amazing. And I think that I've watched a lot of young business owners sort of pop up here and there throughout the city, and they're really inspiring. And I think they have a very new approach to how to deal with the city and how to embrace all the different aspects of diversity that Worcester has. And I think we have to roll with it. I think you have to sort of accept that and use it to your advantage rather than trying to be something we're not.
Yes, I mean, that's why I think if we get a few more of these projects done, then we can start to lure in and attract some other names in the street art community to sort of, we want to put the net out there and let the world know and let the United States know, and whatever, we want anybody to know that, hey, we support these types of projects, and we want you to come here, because I know that once we reach out to that larger community, it'll just put the word out about Worcester, and that will that helps everyone in the long run, especially economically as well. It just creates a lot of opportunities.
Well, I think we've all seen the response from Start on the Street and the programs that Tina and her group have developed. The overwhelming response and the huge turnout for these events.
And you mean Tina's
Lodi,
who
is one of the co-founders of Start on the Street, and that festival turned out, I think they said, over 50,000 this year, which is huge for Worcester. And that's, it just goes to show where, the Cultural Coalition has been sort of fighting for the name, the creative city for Worcester, and I think we really need to make it happen. You can only pass so many laws before you kind of limit yourself. I think it's time to just actually make some progress and actually do something and be the creative city that we're supposed to be.
One of the things I've noticed where it happened, like I lived in Williamsburg, Brooklyn for 10 years, and I noticed that with different population densities, like Brooklyn just would have, like, so many street artists came out of there that just exploded, like I don't know if you're familiar with Swoon's work. She does a lot of wheat pasting, these beautiful drawings that have a woodblock type quality to them, like really well done. And but the thing you would notice in Brooklyn, there's literally like a wheat paste or a new mural or some amazing graffiti every like block. It starts popping up, and that's what's slightly different here because of the population, the amount of artists working here. That type of art diversity is not gonna pop up here, but we also have a lot of other opportunities because the space is much.
We're an old mill city. I think that, or not mills, but we've got all these old abandoned buildings. I think that we've got a lot of blank canvas to work with, and I think it's a matter of getting over the hurdles of the city ordinances and
I think
the fear of repercussion as well.
Right. Well, I'm pretty certain if it's private property. I mean, I know I'm not trying to fight this law or argue with them, but I think once we, let them know what we're doing, and I sort of put all of this information together, it'll be seen as really
I think
positive.
It needs this kind of cohesion to come through. I think if you don't have, a statement and this conversation with this group of people, then they think it's coming from one person when we're not the only people having this discussion. We're not the only people who feel that Worcester is lacking this sort of art. So I think it's just a matter of gathering all of these like-minded people and getting them to have a common voice.
Absolutely. Well, I think that'll wrap it up. But it's been amazing speaking with you and sort of going over our some of our goals of what we want to do, and I always enjoy sharing and getting feedback. So I know that this is just the start, and I want to thank you for taking some time to sit down with me and share your perspective on this whole process.
Thank you for contributing your influence for all that.
I'm here with Darcy Cantor, sales associate extraordinaire and also an artist in her own right. And I just wanted to get a quick little interview with her about her interactions with the public and their general reaction to a mural being done in CC Lowe's parking lot. So with no further ado, Darcy.
Hi, I'm Darcy. I'm a Clark University graduate in studio art and communications. I do plenty of art on my own, all kinds of different stuff, mostly etching, carving, burning, gluing, spraying, anything.
Sniffing.
Anything. I'll try it. Well, working here, you can't not try everything. It's always like, oh, I could do this and I could do that, and you're never done shopping because you're always here. But yeah, I mean that's me, I guess. I still live in Worcester. I don't know. I guess that sums me up.
I was curious over the past couple of months since the beginning of the mural to its completion, what the general reaction from patrons has been.
People love it. Absolutely love it, especially when you guys are working on it. I remember the first day Ben was working on it, a family took a family photo in front of the galaxy, and I thought that was really cute. And it kind of made me think that people will do that more in the future too. And I know when I go to a city and I see a cool piece, I'll take a picture of it or see people taking pictures in front of it and whatnot, and people really appreciate it. I mean, all of our customers are artists, so it's everyone appreciates the artwork and everything.
Has anybody inquired or have you gotten in any discussions as far as the idea of doing more projects like this in Worcester? Does it seem like there's support for that?
Yeah, oh, absolutely. People love it. I'm trying to think. I mean, I love that it opens the can of worms. I end up having this conversation a lot, actually, with people. Who gets to decide what everyone looks at in the city? Is it just the architects or just the city council and everything? Or can the artists have a say? So that really, I love to talk about that. A lot of the people I've talked to are artists too, and they do their own graffiti or they do their own murals and whatnot, and they always want to get in on it. And like I said, it's like, who gets to decide what we look at, like people should express themselves and.
Because there's actually a city ordinance that stipulates that there needs to be, they claim there has to be some sort of permission if you're gonna have something in public display.
Yeah, I didn't even really know too much about that before I read about, this mural and, someone wrote in the paper on it and I was like, oh really? Like it could get painted over, huh? Like that's
Well,
brutal.
it's private property. We got permission from the landlord.
Yeah, and that's
so
what I was under the impression too. Like if we sanctioned it and everyone's gung ho about it, all of our customers love it. The people, the people who go to the salon next door. I mean, no one doesn't like it. And if they did, they wouldn't say anything about it or care enough to make people paint it over.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean that's just too bad. I feel like there's a lot of colorful murals in the city already, but I mean there's a lot of buildings that could definitely use.
So could you speak a little more about to the fact that it the fact that there's a mural out there literally has changed the environment. It's changed people's attitudes of how do you think that that people feel. How has it changed their perspective of their environment living in Worcester? What sort of impact do you think that has?
I think people get excited about it. Especially like when it's in progress. People look at it and like, oh, like what's going on over there? And like we always say that we're set back from the street, so it like draws people's eyes in. When I take people on tours of Worcester, people who are visiting me, I'm from Connecticut, so when people come to visit me in Worcester, I was like, oh, look at this, and we go downtown and we'll see that that jazz mural and the Wayfinder and all this stuff, and Worcester, at least, like they have the Arts Council, they have Cultural Coalition, they have people who are like trying to help out the arts in the city. But yeah, I think it's always positive. It's either neutral or positive. It's never like negative, like, oh, there's too much color, unless it's a stupid, selfish, disrespectful tag of, juggalo, star, whatever. It's like, if it's artwork and not just, scribbling and anything disrespectful, then I don't see why anyone would have a negative view of it.
Cool.
But,
well, we're hoping to, there's a fairly large artist community in Worcester, and we're really hoping, I've been discussing with you guys as well, that we want to do more projects like this.
Yeah.
And, we already have a little bit of support from Montana Paints, so.
Yeah, that was amazing.
I'm a big believer that if we get a few more of these under our belt, then we can start marketing it to other artists working in the country that are doing work like this, and really put give Worcester a really positive spotlight that says, hey, we're a town that is conducive and supportive of cultural initiatives like this. So
yeah, I don't see any reason not to do that, especially because I feel like it might even like help our economy. People would come here if they knew there was tons of art everywhere. It'd give just another like push for people to kind of like check out the city and have these kind of checkpoints of different areas with cool pieces so people could, make their way around the city.
Well, fashion and other urban trends and economy tend to follow movements like this. So that's why I'm a big believer is if we get more artists coming here to work here, and we're supportive of that, the business will follow as well. It'll just create more spotlight on Worcester, so. Yeah,
definitely. It's definitely helped with our business, and a lot of people, when it first started especially, people said, like, I thought you guys were a stuffy little stationery shop, or I thought you were a card shop just from the facade, and then once they kind of saw that we were trying to, like, branch out and, like, at least, have some color on the building, get people in here, and, just something more to
hopefully it'll definitely draw people in and increase your business too, so. Mm-hmm. That's a really positive start. So we're definitely excited about doing more projects in the future, and I'd just like to thank you for taking a few minutes out of your busy schedule to give me some feedback on this.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you.
Awesome.
Thanks for the addition to our wall.
Thanks, Darcy. Bye.
Thank you so much. So good to do this.
Got a letter this morning, how you reckon it read? Said hurry, hurry, girl you love is dead.